be able to play for free. And then later on, you find out that you might have in-game, in-app purchases to exploit capabilities, to level up. So that's a similar concept in terms of premium pricing. The fourth uh, strategy that I'll talk about is called dynamic pricing. And you see already the logo of Grab. And this is where you make flexible pricing strategy either from the standpoint of um, uh, availability and demand, right? So it's used a lot by hotels, airlines, and other companies. Essentially, when the market is very light, there's little demand, you bring in a lower cost, lower pricing strategy, right? But as the demand goes up, then you can add more cost to that. In Grab's case, they look at it from the standpoint of what is known as surge pricing, right? Uh, and they take a look at it in terms of regular hours and peak hours. Part of the strategy here is that during peak hours, because of the amount of demand by riders, sorry, by people who want to take their cars, uh, you would end up having a situation where you don't have enough cars, right? So because of that, what you want to do is say, I'm sorry, but you then put in a surge price, and that will then potentially lower the amount of requests. And a lot of people actually say, I'll wait a bit after peak hours so that the search price goes down. But if I'm in a hurry, then I'll take advantage of that. The other side of the coin is that you provide incentives for the driver because uh, driving during peak time also means that you potentially will drive through traffic. And because of that, you will then end up spending more hours ferrying a customer to the destination versus less peak hours where you can have more pickups, right? So that allows you to balance supply versus demand. Hotels take advantage of that when you have an event. For example, when the US, Mexico, and Canada in the next few months have the Football World Cup, you will find that the prices for hotels and food in certain areas where the event is going to happen suddenly increases the price. During peak season, airlines will also boost their ticket prices. So for a Filipino, if you're a balikbayan coming back home in December, you'll find that your airline cost is going to be higher versus if you travel in less peak times coming over back to the Philippines, right? So here, it provides a lever for the company to take advantage of these situations. And you're also attuned to competition because then you'll find out that when the surge happens for hotels because of peak season, you'll find out that most other competitors are also driving up their prices. So might as well take advantage because then you'll be able to improve your margins. But you might have a strategy like the first one. Because of that, you will have a lesser price because everybody else is going towards looking at the other competitors with the higher price cost, but yours is lower. So instead of them booking with the other hotels, they'll start booking to you, right? There's a huge potential for data and analytics because now you're able to understand which customer segments will actually work with you. So I said with the Grab side, there are customer segments who are willing to wait until the peak hours are over, but there are also customers who are in a hurry and will take advantage of the search price because they need to get to the destination much more quickly. And the downside, of course, is that potentially you'll have a lot of customer complaints, which is happening now. During December, when the Grab surges were very high, there was a lot of complaint to government in terms of why it's unreasonable to have all of these high surge prices. So now you'll be seeing a lot of government intervention to try and bring down the cost of surges as well. So, but that's a ploy. So all of these things in terms of managing supply and demand is under the domain of what is known as dynamic pricing. The next strategy is what is known as skimming pricing. Probably very difficult for us to explain the word skimming pricing, right? But here, the main purpose is if I understand I have a new product and I'm launching the product and there's nothing else in the marketplace that might have all those features, what you do is you enter high, right? So you have early evangelists, early adopters who are able to pay premium prices. So a very good example is our Apple and Samsung with their iPhone launches as well as Samsung's phone products, especially the high end, right? And you see that there is a long queue in Apple stores for the latest iPhone model when it's launched. That way, you will get the most margins out of the product launch because you're charging high. Then, as the months go by and as the demand wanes, you start seeing a potential for dropping the prices to continue increasing the rate of adoption by the rest of society. So this is a very well-known strategies among a lot of our high-tech scenarios. But you need to be able to understand that Apple and Samsung can do this because they have very strong brand imaging, right? So they already have a very strong loyal base. And then you'll be able to understand that that loyalty can provide a premium. Some of you might say, kawawa naman yung mga loyal na customers, right? You're saying that every time I launch a product, I will charge high. So some of the loyal customers will probably complain why this is so. And that's because of the brand imaging, right? In fact, it's an ego trip. If you're in the first after the launch of an iPhone and you have that on your hand, you have bragging rights. So people do pay for that bragging rights. So there's a psychological impact in terms of being able to provide that level of brand imaging and allow you to charge high when you do the product launching, right? I don't know about the real disadvantage, although wrote down here, anger early adopters. I there might be a segment of the early adopters who might get angry because uh, they find themselves getting gypped because they're paying a high price. But I'm surprised that many of them actually really love the ego trip of being the first in the marketplace to own a brand new Samsung product or a brand new Apple product. So it's not for all, but it's a very successful strategy that some of these companies have been able to implement. Okay. The next is penetration pricing. Okay. So here you are, potentially a brand new player in the marketplace, or you have a new product that you want to enter the marketplace, and you want to be able to get a quick entry into that place. So what you do is you actually do the reverse of the penetration pricing, I mean the skimming pricing that we mentioned. You bring in a lower initial price, allow the market to accept that. You corner a large chunk of the marketplace, and then when you're done reaching the goals of your marketing strategy, you slowly then increase the price to a certain normal level. So to a large extent, there is a new entry bargain price, and then you start bringing it up. So I've seen this, and you try it first, you pay a certain amount, then afterwards you then move forward to almost the level of everybody else from a pricing perspective. So here the advantage is that you're really getting traction at speed, right? It's a very high adoption rate. You potentially can dominate the marketplace. And because you're getting high traction on terms of penetration, you're able to cover your initial costs associated with the product design, right? Uh, what you want to be able to do, though, is to make sure that your low price is not really, really very low. It's probably a discount against the regular price, maybe 10 to 20%, just to provide an incentive for people to come in and try the product, and then move them up after a year or so. Or you say, this is a special promotion period. You'll be able to use the product at this amount for 6 months. I see that when I subscribe, for example, to a lot of newspapers in the United States, Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, they'll give you a price that says uh, you pay $10 per month for 1 year. After that, you'll be charged the regular price of $100 per month. So these are things that allow you to penetrate the market very quickly, but potentially after the promotion period is done, you might end up losing the customer. So there's a drawback to that, and that's the reason why you might not have a lot of customer loyalty. But it's a very good strategy, and you don't have to do this just once. So every time you have seasons and you want to be able to get people to stay on the marketplace in terms of adoption, then you can have continuing promotions throughout the life of your products or new entries into product. Okay. The next strategy is economy pricing. This one is very, very clear. You want to be the lowest price in the marketplace, right? And many times uh, you're seeing that in a lot of Chinese traders. Uh, you come in with a very low price with minimum margins, right? And again, you want to be able to get a quick run into the marketplace, get as many customers as possible, and you continue to use that because then hopefully you get a lot of repeat business. Um, so you're seeing that in the marketplace now in terms of uh, companies like SM. They have a huge portfolio of products that are really in the lower tier area. And they now have their own brands as well, some generic brands that allow them to lower the pricing because they have lower overhead costs in those space. And you look at the budget airlines like Cebu Pacific and AirAsia versus a company like Philippine Airlines. They try to enter the marketplace and say you can fly for the cheap, right? The slogan of Cebu Pacific and AirAsia is everyone can fly and everyone can fly. In fact, I was talking to a executive at AirAsia. They were so pissed because Cebu Pacific copied the slogan of AirAsia by just changing the word one to one, right? But that's the reality today. A few years back, maybe decades back, the airlines controlled the marketplace and were charging exorbitant amount. Now, with the low-cost flying budget airlines coming in, they're able to provide you options to fly almost anywhere at the lowest possible price. And they have promotions. Again, we go back to some of the things that we talked about previously. They have peso rates. And peso rates provide a way to enter the marketplace, get market traction, and then you don't sell all the seats in a flight because you still have to recover the cost of the plane, right? But the reasoning behind some of these promotions for airline is that if an airplane flies, that's it. There's no way for you to recover the cost of the fuel and overhead for flying an airplane. That's why you front load it. You can have maybe 30% of the seats in low cost. That allows you to recover at least a chunk of the cost of operating the flight. And then the rest comes in for those that are in the middle tier as well as the upper tier, especially for those uh, business travelers who are in need to fly to a location very quickly without waiting for 3 months, 6 months to have a bargain rate. So now the combination of what is known as product mix allows you then to have a good revenue uh, mix around a particular flight, which hopefully then covers the cost of the actual flight itself. So some of the challenges with this economic pricing is that, again, it's very difficult for you to have a lot of brand exposure. But these guys have done a pretty good job in doing this, primarily because again, they do a lot of things on promotions throughout the year, and then hopefully the rest of the year they're able to cover that with higher margin products, right? So this actually requires you to have a really, really strong gut, because then you're in really fierce competitive environments. If you don't have the stomach for these things, don't consider this. A lot of this happen when you have a really good strategy around managing your costs, and potentially strategies about sourcing things that can help you get good products at lower cost for you to be able to sell at a lower price. The next area is the difference, the opposite of this. This is now premium pricing. So when you look at economy pricing versus premium pricing, here you now have to really differentiate who your customers are, right? So when you have economy pricing, now you're looking at targeting as many customers as possible. So you have a large marketplace for you to do so. So hopefully the volume of sales will compensate for the lower margin. Here, premium pricing, it's different. Now you're looking for people who are of high net worth, who actually are, again, going on ego trips, saying, I need to be able to show to everybody else that I can afford, right? So from the products in terms of fashion, suitcases, to cars and other stuff, there's always a potential of going after a very small segment of the society that has the highest capability to spend, right? So here now, you don't really care about cost of product to price. What you care about is perception in the marketplace to what is the value of that potential product, whether it's luxury or premium brands, to the person who's buying. So now you're seeing two different value contextualization, right? One is to support the perception of the high net worth individual that they're getting a value for money that enhances their own personal value. The other side, in terms of economy pricing, is that you're giving value from the standpoint of what is saved. What is the ability to stretch the amount of money you have in your pocket so that you can buy as many things that you need, versus premium pricing, buying things that you want, right? So two different contexts, and assuming you will take this into account, because some of your products might actually have the potential for premium pricing, because you might be uh, a unique product that provides a relatively good service that nobody else can provide. So take advantage of that and see how high you can go in terms of positioning yourself in the marketplace. The next one is bundled pricing. I I added this here because in many cases there are strategies for you to sell many of your products within your portfolio together, so that you're actually driving traction around some of the products that might have lesser velocity in uptake. Let's take into account, for example, let's say an iPhone, right? If you have an iPhone, the main product is the phone. But what if you then bundle in the cost of the screen protector? You bundle in the cost of a earphone, an AirPod. You bundle in the cost of the chargers. Uh, Together, you're selling it at a certain bundled package price, which is smaller than if you add the individual prices of the individual products, right? In that particular case, you're actually able to increase your penetration of share of wallet, but at the same time, you're able to push other products that might not be uh, at the mind of the buyer at the time he's buying an iPhone, right? So you're doing two things. You're increasing share of wallet while you're increasing velocity of uptake for the other products you have. Okay, I use that example in iPhones, but you will see that in even in the food companies like McDonald's, Jollibee, and Pizza Hut, wherein they actually make bundles out of it. Like McDonald's will have certain promo price for a burger plus fries and soft drinks versus buying just a burger and then going back later and buying another glass of soft drinks. The other is the opposite of that is unbundling. So you force customers to buy accessories that could be at higher price versus the bundle price. So before, when the phones were first introduced, every phone comes in with an earphone, and every phone comes in with a charger. Today, no phone is sold with earphones or chargers. So you buy the earphones and you buy the charger separately. So that's another strategy you can take in terms of how to position your product in the marketplace. Okay. All right. So the next one that take a shot at is what is known as psychological pricing. Here now you try to understand how the customer perceives the barrier to buying a product, right? It's a lot of mind games, but to a large extent, we've been doing this for many years, right? So what you want to be able to do is potentially make the customer feel that he's getting a bargain. So you're seeing that in the marketplace, especially when you do online shopping. You go to Lazada, you go to Shopee. Dati, there's only 1 month with a day clearance sale. Now every month has that. You have a 1-1, a 2-2, a 3-3, and so on and so forth, right? And the assumption that you have from a customer perspective, I will delay my purchases for buying stuff until I reach that particular sale period. And hopefully at that time, I'll be able to get a lot more bang for the buck. In the US, you have what is known as Black Friday, Cyber Monday. All of those then are perceived to be uh, times where you can get a bargain around it. And even from a pricing perspective, the US did this so many times before. Instead of charging $10 for a product, they'll charge you at $9.99. So that 1 cent difference makes I don't understand it, but the psychological impact on the customer saying I got a better deal by paying $9.99 versus paying $10, right? So it really is a marketing ploy, but take advantage of that because then you'll be able to drive up sales during certain times of the year because of those promotions. The challenge around that is what happens when you don't have those clearance sales. So here in the 1-1 sale, it's January 1 to 5. What happens after January 5? You're hoping that there is still demand in the marketplace that continues to drive that, but you'll see spikes in your velocity of take-ups just because of these things. So there are other pricing strategies. We're not going to go deep into these things, but there might be more than this. Examples are geographical pricing. So it could be that you might price it differently just because you're somewhere else, right? I work for one of my customers is a food service company, and I was told that their prices are different if you were in a regular mall versus a premium mall. So if you were to go to the same store, and I won't name the brand, and you go to a Solaire, you go to a Resorts World, even at the airport, you will find that the product pricing will be a little bit higher than if you were to go to an SM or Robinsons Mall. And when you look at gasoline prices as well, many times people use convenience as a justification for buying gasoline at certain areas. But you will find that if you travel along expressways, gasoline prices are higher versus if you travel outside of the expressways. Specials pricing is for me. Again, depending on the time and period of the days or again of the month, you might have special promotions. And happy hours are like that as well. So at certain times of the day, when you come in, I will be able to provide you a discount so that hopefully you'll come in and drink a lot more, right? So these are some examples of additional pricing strategies. Okay. Now, uh, you can take a look at all of these things and you can make a decision that I will just have a fixed price scenario, a fixed menu price. I won't change that depending on uh, time of month, season, whatever, or I can have dynamic pricing. And many of the pricing strategies that we've given you provide you mechanisms for you to be able to develop this. And it really depends on how you want to approach this from a company perspective. Okay, I'll stop here first and entertain any questions. If you do have, please raise your hands or just speak so I can respond. No questions? Oh yes, James, go ahead.
Hello po, sir. Good morning. So
Morning.
just like to ask, sir. So, um, would it be would it be possible that since we're startups, that our pricing mechanisms will be different to when we scale in the future? And then how do
Mhm.
we know that it's time to pivot? That's it po.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, the short answer is yes. um, how do you know when it's time to pivot? I guess to a large extent, you have to have a feel of the marketplace, right? So depending on how you want to pivot, you want to go up or you want to go down, you need to understand the trends in terms of your penetration in the marketplace. If sales continues to go up, there might be an opportunity for you to change your pricing to go higher. If sales continue to go down or you have less penetration, then you might want to think about whether you're pricing it too high for the marketplace. Again, you might also look at a combination from the standpoint of not just in terms of high versus low, but also potentially innovative approaches in terms of product bundling, adding marketing as part of the equation. There's no clear indicator to tell you when to change, no. But the answer to the question is whether you're gonna change your pricing strategy as you progress from startup to maturity. The answer is yes. I think to a large extent, if you don't change, there's a potential danger that you might be the one disrupted by a new entrant in the marketplace or a larger competitor who's already established in the marketplace uh, that will try to kill you. So make sure that you have your ears to the ground and you feel the pulse of the marketplace so that you then know how to change the pricing strategy you have. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yes po. Thank you.
Yeah. Van, you have a question?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, magtatagalog lang po ako.
Sige po.
As, yung pricing po ba, depende po, baka siguro as we go along with this session, baka kasama mo sa topic ito, pero baka advance lang ang tanong ko. If our pricing depend on our target market po, if we can, kung saan po kami nakakuha ng market niche, doon lang
Mhm.
po namin ibabase sa kanilang purchasing capacity or buying capacity or kung kaya po ba natin silang presyuhan ng mataas or mababa. Kasi po meron po akong isang experience last December. I joined pop-up shop, yung mga bazaar po, market.
Uh-uh.
And then
Uh-uh.
I sprint the idea to open a Thai street food.
Okay.
So Thai street food, bago siya sa market po dito, nilagay siya sa street. Na when in fact, in Thailand, we can eat Thai food on the street. Dahil ito
Yes.
yung mga ano nila po.
Yes.
So, nung inoffer ko siya sa street, ginaya ko siya sa Thailand na 50 pesos. kasi sa Thailand, makabili ka ng street food, 50 baht. Pero
Yep.
gusto ko siyang gayahin dito, 50 pesos lang siya. Pero in a small quantity kasi yung costing po ang pinagbabasihan ko.
Okay.
Ngayon, nalugi ako sa pricing ko dahil yung ibang pricing ng mga vendor doon, meron silang 100 or more than 100
Yeah.
na sa akin naman at the end of the event I was able to to come up with the realization na Thai food is overrated but it's underserved in the Philippines, and
Okay.
people will just pay for a small amount just to test the new product introduction. So
Okay.
ngayon gusto kong mag-bounce back po. If kung babalik ako sa street food, sa another opportunity ng isang pop-up shop sa bazaar, pwede po ba akong tumaas ulit? Pwede ko bang itaasan siya para mabawi ko yung losing ko? Actually, I lost the uh, in the profit base kung gusto kong turnover ang ibabasihan ko. Pero at the end of that event po, I was able to sell like more than 1,000 items that made me think about that I was able to sell to top 1,000 customers in that period of time po. Yan na lang ang yan na lang ang winning solution, winning ko sa yung sinalihan ko na in sprint ko na Thai street food po.
Okay. Actually, you provided me the perfect segue to my next topic. Pero pero the short answer is, pwede mo bang taasan yung presyo? Of course you can. Ang challenge mo lang talaga is iba yung pinagbasehan mo ng presyo in terms of market reality. Kasi ang ginawa mo lang benchmark is ano yung presyo sa Thailand. And 50 baht is not the same as 50 pesos, right? Except that you focus just on the number, right? So the other things that you did not consider was that ano yung competition mo sa lugar at ano yung merkado na pinapenetrate mo, na sinaserve mo. And based on what you're saying is, maraming nag-try sa market, sa product mo. You said 1,000 something sales, right? But
Opo, naka-dispose po ako ng more than 1,000.
right. So, but then you lost the opportunity to get the value for your product, given that your competitions are pricing higher, and yet people will try your product. So that actually fits right well into the next topic. Because what we've done so far is just told you ano yung mga potential strategy for pricing. I have not told you which ones to use, right? The ones to use is now going to be a factor from a decision perspective, given number one, ano yung gusto mo mang-achieve. So from a founder perspective, how do you want to position your product? Second, how is the customer base going to perceive the value that your product is going to have? And at the moment, no customer comes in and say, kailangan 50 pesos siya. Right? They're not gonna come in and say, kailangan yung presyo ko, yung bibiling ko produkto is 50 pesos. Titingnan niya muna kung ano yung produkto mo at tugma ba yung produkto sa gusto niya. Right? So if they're looking for a taste of Thai, potentially, you might even be pricing yourself higher than everybody who's selling it 100 pesos because iba yung produkto mo eh, di ba? And potentially, again, kailangan na intindihan mo kung yung customer mo is willing to try this at hindi niya nakukuha sa merkado na typical, and he will try to do that. As you said, it's just underserved, right? If it's a product that is underserved, then there is a demand that hasn't been served. So you potentially can then take advantage of the fact that people can then say, oh, pwede pala to. At wala akong makitang ibang lugar na nagbebenta ng Thai. Susubukan ko to. And they haven't come in at a mindset that says, I will only try that if it was 50 pesos, right? I will try the Thai food. That is probably the mindset you'll put in. The next question is, what is a reasonable amount? then mo siguro pwedeng ibenta ng 500 pesos because then nobody will buy it, right? Pero potentially, hindi siya 50 pesos. So there's a huge range between what you can play depending again on the customer that you're going to target, the potential value that they perceive. Okay? So I'll go to the next topic and then we can come back to you in
Thank you
case
po.
I haven't answered that. All right, guys? So let's go now. So how will you determine your pricing strategy? Balik tayo dito, 'di ba? Ang pinaka mahirap isagot is ano ba yung tamang presyo na kailangan gagawin? As the questions are showing, pag masyadong mababa, hindi mo na-achieve yung objective mo. Potentially, yung margins are not gonna cover your expenses and your operating expenses that you lose money. And potentially, if it's too high, wala namang customers na papasok. So that's a dilemma that you have to look at, right? So I'll go through a few concepts and questions. And I would encourage you to check out a chap called Ash Mauria. Yeah. I'll try and get you the name of that. He's the author of a book called Running Lean. And I assume that you will go through the process of understanding business model canvas. There is a BMC component, but he has proposed his own canvas called Lean Canvas. He's the author of that, and many times he's told us the BMC canvas is for you to actually determine business models for a relatively more mature startup. But for a very new startup, you want to look at the Lean Canvas because here you focus on the problems you want to solve. In fact, his saying has always been, love the problem, not the solution. So take a look at those, but some of these concepts that I'm putting here are coming from Ash, and he's really trying to drive the issue of when do you decide how to create your price and how do you decide what price to work with. Okay, so pricing is risky because as Van was saying, he made a pricing assumption that I can use 50 pesos just because Thailand used 50 baht, right? So it's a very risky aspect of that. The challenge is that many of you don't even think about pricing of your product now, right? Many of startups look at pricing when the product is relatively more mature from a development perspective. But what Ash is saying is that dapat ngayon pa lang, as soon as possible, start looking at what your pricing strategy is going to be. Because here you're not looking at just the product, you're looking at how the product is positioned against the market, against the target customers you're going to have, right? So all of these combined are going to influence what pricing strategy you're going to take, right? So most people start with the cost plus strategy. Here, you're looking at a jigsaw model that says, I'm going to combine all of these things. So you got 4 plus 3, 7 plus 3, 10 plus 5, that's 15, right? And then you add in a margin of $4. When you do that, you end up about 19, right? So the challenge with this, sorry, I made a mistake. The price is 19, the margin is 4, so our profit is 4, right? So the challenge with this is that you're looking at it not from the standpoint of what the product could bring you when you go to market. You're only looking at it from the production cost, right? That's why Ash is saying this is backwards. We can always go back to the determining the cost, but in terms of determining what margin to make, it's really dependent on your business model and your customer target, right? So another potential model that we've talked about is the try it first, which is really the strategy for either freemium or for skimming, right? So what you want to be able to do with that is an opportunity to learn from your users, right? But many of them will try, but then they don't know whether they will buy, right? So ang contextual dito is that you're giving users a chance to test your product. But would the users be the ones to pay, right? So users are different from customers, right? The most important distinction is you're going to go after customers. You're not going to go after users. While all customers start off as users, not all of the users become customers. But there's always a trend that says, let's look at penetration strategy. Let's get as many users as possible. And hopefully there's a certain percentage of them that become customers. And that's the same strategy that most game developers do. They send the games to app stores, you download that game, you start having free use of that, and eventually a certain percentage of that become customers. When I was still with ABS-CBN, we were also with the interactive marketplace, and we started doing interactive games. And one of the products we have was called Tantra. And I'm not a real gamer, but I was asked to come in and help out. And I spent several days, even late in the night, playing the game, right? And I find that you get incentivized to buy more premium products in game because you need to power up, you need to buy protection and everything else. What actually surprises me was there was a huge customer segment in that playing community that spends 5,000 to 50,000 pesos a month on in-app purchases, right? Hindi ko na ano yun. That completely blew my mind. And you will potentially have some of those. So if you have products, and I'll take an advanced example. If you have Thai dishes that is not normally known in the marketplace, typically mga pad thais are common, right? But if you get something else that you don't normally get in the marketplace, suddenly you'll find a lot more customers willing to buy a different product. So again, it's very important that you understand the customers, right? In customer segments that will pay you are the ones that you want to go after, but you don't discard the users. But you just have to make sure that you have a balancing act that says, I will try to attract more customers rather to attract as many users as possible. Okay. So when you have a free product out there to try, you'll have all of these potential users, right? But then you potentially do not know when the customers are going to come in, right? It is always difficult when you do that to actually get customer feedback. So now if you're going to do that, what you want to make sure of is also understand how do you then qualify based on your analytics, sino ba yung tunay na customer mo, right? Otherwise, what you're looking at when you do feedback is you're only following the vocal majority. Ang problema ng vocal majority, marami silang complaints, marami silang suggestions, but not all of them are going to generate profit. So as you work on your product, in correlation to how you do pricing methodology and understanding the customers, to make sure that you also practice analytics. Customer analytics will then tell you which are the more important customers and which one is the real voice of the customer versus the voice of the user. Okay? So, your pricing model is part of your product and it determines which type of customers you want to attract. So now we go into that specific area where Van was mentioning. I have a Thai food product. Thai, not Thai. Thai food product, right? Pero ano yung customer mo, right? You mentioned a few assumptions. It's a good product. People might like it, but it is not served. It's underserved, right? So, in potential, depending on how you cook your Thai food, maanghang ba siya masyado o hindi, right? Because there's another marketplace that says you want to go after the spicy food eaters, right? So when you finish your product design, does it fit the type of customers you want to attract, right? So again, You don't want to attract everybody. One of the things that we teach when we look at incubation is that do not tell me that your product will fit everybody, that you will sell to everybody, because that is never the case, right? So you have to narrow down your focus to the specific customer segment that will buy your product, right? And there are many things that we can teach as you go through the incubation journey on how to determine which particular customer segment and persona is actually the customer segment you want. So now you have a product customer fit question, right? So when you have that as part of the equation, then you can determine, yung customer ko ba na gusto bumili ng product is a very strong miser that will not buy anything for less than 100 pesos, right? So iba yung strategy mo nun, right? So now you will have to position the product to be less than 100 pesos. Pero ang katumbas niyan is that when you do your computation, ilan ba kailangan ko ibenta para magkaroon ako ng profit? So if I have 90 peso product, how many products should I sell given the pop-up period? And if I have to pay, let's say, 5,000 for the space, 2,000 for the space, I have to pay salary for a helper, I have to pay for the ingredients, everything. As you put in all the costs, can your volume provide you the margins and revenue to cover all that cost? So you're going with eyes open para hindi mo sasabihin na pagkatapos ng event, nagbenta ako ng 1,000 pieces pero 90 pesos, lugi ako. Because then that means you didn't do your homework. The other side of the coin is that if my product and customer will allow me to sell the product at 150 pesos, 200 pesos, because it's so tasty, people will try that, and it's a large volume that will fill my stomach, versus going around the street food side and I will buy products at, let's say, 100 pesos, pero paglabas ko, gutom pa ako, kuha pa ako ng iba. Again, based on that customer mix, you now do the computation again. How many minimum products should I sell in order for me to cover costs and create a profit around the pop-up? So now you have two extremes, right? One is the higher price, one is the lower price. So the question is, are they the only ones, or there's something else in between so I can find a sweet spot? So that now determines what type of pricing strategy you'll have, right? So take a look at this. I have 2 bottles of water, right? One water costs 50 cents. The other costs $2. But if you open the water bottle and you drink it, it will taste the same, right? Walang kaibahan. Tubig is tubig, right? Pero there is a perception that potentially yung $2 product gives me higher quality. Maybe the perception is they're able to make sure that it's cleaner. Maybe they're able to say that it's coming from a very high, difficult source of water, like what Evian does. It says it's coming from the spring water of somewhere else, right? So there are mental and psychological things that you take a look at for the same product, right? And the difference potentially might be in branding and marketing, right? Price has the power to change your perception of the product. So again, we go back to the models that we've taken into account. How do you position? And siyempre, iba yung customers na bibili ng tubig ng 50 centavos. Kasi nauuhaw ako tubig lang, basta tubig. There's another perception of customers that will say, I want a premium product because I want to make sure that I stay healthy, right? So if I go to a premium location, I will not accept a bottled water that's cheap that I cannot rely on to keep me healthy, right? So this is a very, very good example of what you can do from a pricing perspective for just relatively common products, more so from your side. No? So it's very important for you to understand that the time to actually start thinking about how to properly price your product is now, and you need to be able to understand how you penetrate the marketplace, which customers you want to go after. The bottled water you pick also determines which customer segment you want to belong in, right? And which customer is going to be a determinant to what signals you want to send so that you will attract them, right? So, and Van, forgive me for using you as an example kasi ang ganda na example mo, yung Thai food, right? So, pag sinabi mo Thai food, the assumption is that given markets everywhere, potentially yung merkado, sabihin niya, medyo premium product siya. Pupunta ako sa mall at pumunta ako sa Thai restaurant, iba yung presyo ng mga bibilin ko versus going into a Filipino restaurant na turo-turo, right? So, yung presyo na gagawin mo with the branding that you do will now send signals. At siya ang magiging a way for you to tell which customers go to you versus which customers go to somebody else. So, I know I'm making it a little bit more complicated, pero lahat yun interrelated eh. Diba? Hindi lang siya peso value. It really is dependent on how you understand the customer, how you're going to attract them, and then how you're going to sell the product. So, assume mo na lang na premium customer ang gusto mo, and then you come in, you attract him, but you can give him a 50 centavo bottle of water. That will change the perception of the brand, right? And sometimes it works that potentially, sasabihin niya, mahal tong tubig mo. Pero, he still says, siguro nga dahil iba yung branding nito eh, di ba? So, I'm willing to pay that, but maybe I won't come here every day. So, may mga ganon scenarios, but you still will attract a segment that is willing to pay you for that particular product. Okay? So, it's not the user's job to set the prices. So when you say user, diba yung kanina pinag-usapan natin, pag nag-freemium ka, potentially ang unang attraction mo is mga user, hindi yung customer, right? So hindi dapat yung user, yung voice of the user telling you that dapat 50 pesos yung product. Ang kailangan mo maintindihan at least yung customer. And then as the founder, you need to be able to be the one to set that price. And the price you set, given the business model and the product, will determine whether your business will survive or not. Yun yung sinabi mo din, Van, di ba? Yung sinet mong 50 peso price, at the end of the day, unfortunately, lugi ka. Right? So yung price decision that you make is really very difficult, but it is important because that positioning will now determine whether you're going to make money or not. Okay? So, ito yung Steve Jobs and the Apple. Do you think Steve Jobs ever asked the marketplace, magkano ba dapat ang iPhone? Right? He will never ask that. And in fact, he will tell you, my iPhone is going to cost you $199, $299, $499. And unfortunately, he will say, in the back of his mind, take it or leave it. Right? Kasi alam niya, yung produkto na ginawa niya, hindi siya pipitsugin. Yung produkto na ginawa niya is targeted from a certain market segments that wants to carry an iPhone. And based on my understanding across consumer markets, iPhone is an aspirational product. Kung kaya ko, ang unang choice ko is an iPhone. Kung di ko kaya, bibili ako ng mas mura. Pero kung may pera na ako, papalitan ko ng iPhone. And across many consumer studies, and even in our FINMA schools, when you talk about our students from the low-income sector, aspirational iPhone. So again, Steve Jobs doesn't set the iPhone product and price based on that, but he creates an aspiration. So he will create a demand because of that aspiration. That's again a psychological scenario, right? So as a founder, you need to make sure you determine where you want to go. the direction and the ambition, right? You want to be a 1 million peso company in 6 months. You want to be a 10 million peso company in 1 year or 2 years, right? Then you determine sino ba yung market na kailangan kong itap para mabili yung market ko, right? Those two factors will now help you in terms of determining what pricing strategies you want to go after. Combine nyo yung pricing strategies that we mentioned before, all the 10 or 12 different areas. Determine the possible revenue opportunities. You cannot do this by just doing it mentally. You really have to do it with a pen and paper. Write down the target market, and if you can, research how big the target market is in that area that you're going to go after. If you're going to be localized or going to be Philippine based, my assumption is you're going to start with the local and then eventually grow. Determine based on the market you have, how big that marketplace is, total addressable market and total penetrable market. All of those things are very important for you to determine the revenue potential. Then you rank. Given the price strategies that I'm going to choose against those possible revenue markets, which ones are the most likely to succeed? It could be one or it could be several that you combine. Now you test. So when you do your product launches, or you can do a pilot launch, then you can test whether there's traction around all of those particular strategies. So when you do that, make sure you understand how you're going to stay in the marketplace. So the question around that, as you start with being a startup, as you move to maturity or even moving forward, do you change your pricing strategy? Again, the answer is yes. And a lot of that is going to be based on probably hypothesis testing. Your unang assumption mo, ito yung market ko, ito yung presyo na kailangan gawin, tugma ba siya? Kung hindi, learn from it very quickly. That means you fail from a testing perspective, pivot kagad, and then change your pricing strategy and then test it again, right? So all the things we talked about from a pricing methodology perspective is for you to be armed with tools that are methodologies you can take to see how each one will perform in the marketplace that you choose to do so. Okay? Again, I'll stop here first. If you have any questions, we can then talk about before I go into the next round, which is a lot of the marketing and launching side of the business. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you po. Dalawa pong sasabihin ko po dito, sir. Tungkol doon sa Thai street food na nilaunch ko, as na in-sprint ko siya para ma-penetrate ko yung market, tapping the street food na subscriber. So, yun nga, nakapag-deliver ako sa kanila ng ganun na product, and the turnover of the product interaction was good. Kasi ang comment nila, oy, masarap pala yung Thai, sabi. Tapos ang sabi pa nila, lami kaayo. And then it's overwhelming because it's lami kaayo. I said, it's okay for me, it's lami. But if you put kaayo and it's overwhelming, na it's really delicious na
Good.
sa express nila po. Kaso lang yung logi ko days, the day where I was logi po, it didn't cover up the whole busiest day that I made profit to cover up the slow operation po.
Okay.
So now I iterate the product now, and I am now selling the idea to my friends in Thailand to acquire the idea of this kind of venture na kasi ginawa ko lang po yun, sir, para makita ko yung traction po, how the market in the Philippines makatikim sila ng Thai, and then paano ko siya iterate para maibenta ko yung idea doon sa mga kaibigan ko sa Thailand po. So
Sure.
meron akong pero hindi lang ako makapagbigay sa kanila kung magkano meron akong spreadsheets na kumita ako, pero hindi ko masabi sa kanila na lugi pala yun. Pero the most that I could sell so that they can acquire the idea na mag-invest po sila ay nakapag-testing ako na meron akong more than 1,000 of customers na tikman po nila. So ongoing po na discussion ko doon sa mga kaibigan ko sa Thailand. And
Okay.
itong pangalawa ko sir na sabihin, yung Gora pala na which is the startup na ginagawa ko dito sa CDO Bytes. Gora is it's a go-to mobile application for it's a go-to rural travel mobile application po.
Okay.
Which is the rural tourism. It's now being accelerated and supported by the Department of Tourism.
Okay.
And I will make it easy for travelers to find authentic travel experience po, which is
Okay.
the rural can serve on that value.
Yes.
So ngayon po, ang experience ko po sa Thailand ay nag-backpack po ako since 2006. Backpacker po ako sa Thailand, sa Southeast Asia. And then I learned the market and I'm really immersed into this kind of industry. Na isa lang tong very small segment sa the whole tourism industry po. Ngayon, nung based on the research and in my own experience, ang backpacker community, they are budget traveler and they are willing to throw out money in everyday expenses from $10 up to maximum of $50. Ang ginawa ko po, ang inisip ko po kay Gora, I want to capture those $10 to $50 na alot na tinatabi ni backpacker po. And how I able to capture, that's how I base my pricing po. Na nandun lang sila so that this kind of segment, they are willing to pay from the range of their yung parang everyday nila nagagastuhin all throughout their journey kasi itong backpacker po nagta-travel to sila in 3 to 6 months to 1 year po ang biyahe nila diyan. So kaya tipid na tipid 'yan. So what I'm trying to capture, yung capture sir, kukunin ko yung $10 po nila sa
Okay.
ganun po yung sa ko, yung base pricing ko po.
Sige. I think $10, I mean, we convert that to peso, malaki din yun. But to a large extent, I guess we'll have separate sessions in terms of advising startups. I'm not sure if Gora is assigned to me. But I have no problems advising you later on as well. So CDO Bytes, if you can share my contact with Van and we can have separate discussions around that. No? Yung last comment lang about your Thai food scenario. While it might not be possible for you to show from an Excel spreadsheet how it was profitable from you from a venture perspective, what needs to happen now is you need to create the lessons learned and then make the adjustments as to what to do so that then potentially we can solve the gaps that you have with the initial tests and then see how better the new model will look like after you make all the changes. Okay. It's 11:54, so I have 13 minutes left. We'll spend the next 30 minutes, probably less, just to go through. No? So again, I go back to ang challenge ko lang dito. Ang laki ng topic nito marketing and launching. In fact, my worry is that it might be too early for us to talk about launching because I don't know the maturity of your products yet. I don't know the maturity of your customer discovery sessions as well as potentially marketing plans. No? So what I'll do is really skim through a lot of ideas. And then I purposely eliminated when you talk about launching what you will do in terms of the timeline, in terms of the days, because I think it's too early for us to talk about that. So we'll talk about very high strokes. And the other thing is, I think you cannot separate marketing from the launching side. So in the original topic assigned to me, it says pricing, launching, and marketing, right? So pag-usapan natin yung launching and marketing together because it's very important then in terms of determining how you're going to launch the product to have a real good grasp around the marketing side. No? And again, this is not a marketing session because again, there are degrees in marketing. So and that's a 4-year course. So I'm not going to go into the process of being the marketing guru, teaching you everything about marketing. No, I think you can get your ideas from many sources around marketing. But here, I will focus on what marketing means from the standpoint of addressing your target customers. Okay. So, when you say target customers, okay, we're looking at these particular variables, right? So when you need to be able to combine an understanding of ano bang ibig sabihin ng customers. So there is a difference when you say, I'm only going to target Gen Z customers. There's a difference when you say, going to target millennials, I'm going to target baby boomers. And I don't know if you realize this, and I don't know if the news comes to your area. In the Manila, maraming dumadating ng mga performers, mga US performers na kasing tanda ko na o mas matanda pa sa akin, right? I don't know about your taste in music, but I don't know if you heard of uh, the musicians Don McLean, James Taylor, Apple. I mean, not Apple, America, right? Mga music na mga mga tatay at nanay niyo siguro 'yan, right? Pero ang market niyan is the people who are at my age, but they are also the people who are willing to pay. Because nung kabataan nila, wala silang pagkakataon na makita itong mga performance na live. Right? So you have a events group that focuses solely on this, brings them over here because they know that they will be able to attract a certain market that has the money and are willing to pay. So you need to do the same thing as well. And you need to be able to really slice up your customer to understand sino ba talaga ang ita-target ko. So aside from demographics, you should be able to also understand the psychographic side. Ano ba yung mga values nila, right? Interest, behavior, right? So somebody who loves to listen to slow rock music will not listen to heavy rock. Somebody who's looking at older gen musicians will not go down and look at Coldplay, right? Or will not even go down and look at BTS. So all of these things will determine who your target market is. From there, now we're looking at ano ba yung pain point? What are the problems that they're trying to solve, right? So if we go back to the point ng Thai food, ang potential pain point nito is hindi ako nakakatikim ng Thai food anywhere else in the marketplace, or at least kukonti lang Thai food na restaurants that I can go to. So is there a way for me to service that? So that becomes an area of coverage for you to understand the pain points. Now, you match that against what potentially are the solutions. And then you compare your solution, whether they're actually solving the problem or not, right? And whether there are competitions around that will also go after that. And that's where you combine them together to determine how they might make a decision on what to do with your product. Will they buy or not, right? So all of these are very important considerations. And when you go through what is known as customer discovery in the business model canvas, that's where you go into the nitty-gritty analysis of your target customers as to who the customer is, what is the persona, and potentially also what is the role in terms of the decision as far as buying the product is concerned. You need to be able to make sure that you understand what's your value, what makes you different from any other potential solution, and answer the question, why should a customer buy you? I've gone through some presentation, which was more a satire that says, there's this scientist who has this particular very technical jargon about the nano something. And then the investor is asking, okay, so why should I put money in you? And the question is, because it is, again, technical jargon. And then they say, who's going to buy the product? He says, everybody. So that's not understanding your customer, right? So you need to be able to pin down as narrowly as possible sino yung customer na gusto mong pasukan at ano ang value na pwede mo bigay sa kanila. Okay? You're looking at benefits, not features, right? Looking at outcomes. So you need to make sure that you truly understand that so that at the end of the day, pag nakuha mo yung kiliti ng customer, hindi siya aayaw sa binibenta mo. Okay? Dali. Arnold, that's correct. When you talk about value proposition canvas, yes. Hindi ko pa nakikita yung syllabus nyo, so I don't know where you are now in the progression of the entrepreneurial journey. So hopefully you understand all these tools. Now you need to be able to. So tama to, when you do your VPC, lalabas to, right? Ano yung customer mo, and then you have to look at what the jobs to be done are, and then they will be able to understand what are the pain points and gain points, right? Yung kabila ng VPC, the left side, is where you define your product. So now you need to fit. Based on the product, do you fit the jobs to be done? Are you then doing pain relievers, and do you have gain creators? When you do have that, that tells you then you have a potential product market fit. Okay. Right. Launch goals, key metrics. Let me put this all up first. Okay. Nandito na tayo. Maglo-launch tayo ng products lang, di ba? So prior to the launch, kailangan mayroon ka ring pre-marketing. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-assume na on the day itself, that's it. If you don't do your homework prior to the launch date, you won't be able to find people coming in. So assume na lang you're gonna do a face-to-face invite for the product launch. So umpisa pa lang, kailangan mayroon ka ng tawag nun, customer list that you're gonna go after, right? If you do not send the invitations as early as possible, then you don't know how many are gonna come in. Same thing with virtual. Are you going to be able to see a lot of downloads or signups, right? Then after that, based on the launch that you have, your pitches and your presentations, are you converting? Are you activating? If you're not doing that, you're not tracking that, then you don't know what's your penetration rate based on the number of leads that you have coming into the launch. And you need to make sure that you're able to do it several months in advance so that the people are very aware of that particular launch date and they will attend, right? Either virtually or face to face. And then you need to look at conversion. And how does it then come back to in terms of the revenue targets? At launch, you want to already have a target revenue, or at least a target number of users that have signed up or are converting and will pay you potentially an initial fee, right? After that, you now need to go into a daily and weekly engagement model before and after, right? So you have to make sure that when you send out emails, do not just rely on email, call. Make sure you confirm. Even if you make 1,000 calls, there will always be people who will not come for whatever reason. So hopefully, when you send out, let's say, hypothetically, 1,000 leads and you engage with them 1,000, even if you lose 50% of that, that's still 500. That's still a good number for you to work with. So try to get that into your system so that you can that. Yes, it must have differentiator. Sorry, I'm not able to manage my Zoom session across all the channels from chat to but everything that you're putting in the chat is correct. And make sure that you when you do your launch now, hindi lang hindi lang tama na you have the launch activities done, it goes 100% well. Kailangan alam mo rin kung tama yun nagawa nyo at based on the customer feedback, are you getting positive feedback or not? NPS is Net Promoter Score. So that really determines the value of the launch and the branding that you're trying to exhibit. So make sure you do get that. And then from there, based on the potential positive feedback, you might get a few people that could either be influencers or potential customers that can give positive testimonials. Alagaan nyo yan. So that make sure that beyond the launch date, they continue to provide noise around what you're selling, and make sure also that you're engaged with the press. Here, both from traditional press to non-traditional press, which is really more the influencer side. No? So today, to a large extent, you're going to have a lot of areas to cover. I mean, another example from Van's area in Gora, when you start looking at the tourism marketplace, importante na you cross the excess around channels that people go to understand tourism. So you might need to cover uh, people that are in the travel industry, people that are in the hotels, people that are in travel websites, even the Department of Tourism, to try and get them involved. And then guests on shows. So there will potentially be local radio stations or TV stations that can air what you're doing, and then work with them to showcase your product and show the benefits of being able to actually go after travel sites will do. I understand that you're really targeting a small segment. Uh, I'm not sure about whether the backpackers will be your primary target market, because then you're very dependent on international travel to do so. But you might want to also look at the local marketplace so that you then take away the potential issues of disruption, because what's happening in the United States now, diba? So people might not be traveling as much because of all the things that are happening. But what we're saying lang is that definitely, as you look at your launch scenarios, make sure you take all of this into account. How early should you start sending out mailers and guest lists and invites? How many of them are confirming, actually subscribing or downloading? What is your target revenue? Track that as you move from launch till continue. Continue to engage with them. Do not just send mails, send them as many mails, but also call them possible if you have the ability to get their numbers, and use social media to try and do the engagements, so that then you're also getting extremely good customer feedback from either joining the event or then afterwards about the event, about the product. Okay, right. Channel selection. So this one is really more about where do you position yourself from a voice perspective, right? Ang challenge ng PR and marketing around launches is you need to be able to provide messaging that rise above the clutter. Ano ibig sabihin yan? Kasi hindi lang naman ikaw ang lalabas eh. Hindi lang ikaw ang sisigaw ng produkto. Kailangan yung mensahe mo can rise above everything else. So again, I would not look at a shotgun approach. I would look at a targeted approach. So again, depende sa customers mo, dapat sila nakikinig sa iyo. Right? Hindi sila nakikinig sa mga game launches and other stuff. So it's very important as you look at the various channels to look at, pick the one where your customers go to. And again, depending on the demographic profile of your customers, you need to also select a channel that they're used to. So potentially, not all target markets of the older generation like mine are online. So you'll have to look at analog scenarios. The Gen Zs and below and millennials, potentially malakas dyan ng online. So many of them might not even be watching TV anymore. So potentially YouTube and others would be Discord or whatever channels we'll have in terms of social media. We'll be able to go after that. But the key ingredient here is number one, saan yung merkado mo, anong pinakamagandang channel to work with, at ano yung mensahe nyo, right? So work with those elements so that then the person who is able to receive that message is has seen that above every other bombardment of message you have, will then be incentivized to use you to go to your location for the launch or to go and download the product from the site that you made. Okay. So, ang challenge sa atin, of course, pag startup ka, you don't have a lot of money, right? Unless, of course, Papa is rich. But here, to a large extent, many startups start with their own money, right? And you bootstrap everything. Maswerte ka kung based on the incubation hub you have, you'll be able to find somebody who's willing to provide you seed money. Without that, now you have to look at how do you make the best use of your limited resources. Okay? So I go to some of these things, and these are not inclusive of everything, but to large extent, ang sinasabi dito, kailangan intindihin mo kung nasaan ang merkado mo, right? And use the channel that is the lowest cost effectiveness, not the lowest cost effect, lowest cost, but high effectiveness for you to reach that market, right? And I'm not telling you not to spend money because sometimes you really have to spend money. But because you have limited resources, intindihin nyo anong tamang amount of money na kailangan mong gastusin para ma-reach mo yung market na yan, right? So these are just suggestions, but to a large extent, I think many of you will probably be looking at the fifth one, wherein there are digital communities where you can work with. During the pandemic, suddenly everybody was looking at Viber to try and sell to the localities. And the term hyperlocal came in, right? Which means that I want to be able to sell because I cannot go out. I look for those that are in close proximity to me, right? And I'm able to then reach a marketplace that's close to me with a product that they want to buy. And many of those in that particular experiment were primarily in the food business because ang hirap lumabas, hindi ka pwede lumabas. I don't know what the situation was in Cagayan de Oro, but in Manila it was very bad. It was very difficult to go out. Buti nga, at that time, lumabas ang mga resources lang, Grab and Lalamove, and then you have a lot of e-payment models. You're able to now look at Globe's GCash and Maya. And then you still also look at shopping sites like Lazada and Shopee, right? But again, you also don't have a lot of marketing dollars, pesos. So you look at channels, right? So doon lumabas yung mga Viber communities and everything else. Now it's not as much anymore, but it's still a very good vehicle for you to use. So when you look at, if you have money, Google also has the ability for you to register yourself as a small business so that when you do the search algorithm and you're able to show what search to look for and it matches against your product, they can actually put you up on top. No? There's a boost amount that you have to pay, but then it assumes that you'll be able to get to the market as quickly as possible. Okay. So if you are looking at many of these things, sometimes the idea of using higher professional grade channels like LinkedIn will get you a chance to go into a much bigger space. I don't know your product yet, so I would leave it up to you to determine. And if we have time, we can always discuss which channels you think would be of benefit. We can talk about the pros and cons. Okay. All right. Creating launch momentum. So these are just ideas for software. Typically, the areas that we start with is a try and use scenario using a beta program. So if you are in software, you might want to pick and choose a few friends that will test your product. A challenge with software, of course, is that when you do launch a product, you want to keep your bugs as limited as possible. And then you also want to test UX, user experience scenario. With the beta testing scenario, you're able to then test users and then understand what to change around your product to get better traction around that. Okay. You might also want to reward early adapters. So again, many times you launch a product and you have a very limited space. In the US, the Airbnb scenarios were launched only with a friends. Even Uber started off launching based on a very small group. And that provides them some level of exclusivity before you start expanding the area. You also try to look up and creating a wait list because then, as the statement says, you're creating level of scarcity. But that's later when you have already a big launch and you have some traction in the marketplace. Now people want to come in. Um, the the way this is not a launch, but the way things example of this. I don't know if many of you are in the K-pop side. Uh, I've seen this with some of my friends and my daughter, wherein they actually wait for the announcement of when they can start registering for a chance to buy tickets for a customer. Everybody's waiting for that particular time, and they go to locations where they can get really good broadband because unahan sa pagpasok ng pangalan nyo into the site for you to get a ticket. So this is not necessarily a wait list as far as early access is concerned, but it's a wait list for people to say, I really want to get into this. And I'm sure you understand the term FOMO, fear of missing out. So really, I'm really surprised at the phenomena about all these K-pop stars and their strategies around tickets and launches. So that's something that you can take a look at as well, depending again on your product and target market. Influence seeding, you might want them to have strategic partnerships with people that can actually give a positive feedback around here. I mean, today there's so many influencers. It's a lot easier with food, but now you're looking at other products. I'm not sure if there are a lot of tech people that can actually help, but I'm sure there are plenty of influencers even for Van's Gora project for tourism, and then see how they will seed their comments and um, positive comments around why they should use the product and where they go. Right. So these are just ideas. Take a look at those and see whether that fits into your uh, area or not. Okay. So it's very important as you look at your launch. The key is the message, right? Um, and I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with the term elevator pitch, uh, but this is no longer a sell to an investor. Now you're selling to the customer. And I would look at how Apple does this, right? I know you might not have the resources to have a large auditorium that you can beam messages around, and you don't have a Steve Jobs personality that will trounce around a stage and show a product and everything else. But try to emulate that, right? Make sure that you articulate ano yung problem you're trying to solve. And you start with that. Don't start with the product. Don't start with saying, I have an iPhone. Try to solve the problem first. The issue when the iPhone was launched was you have a clunky Nokia versus a browser-based product like the iPhone. You're able to craft emails, you're able to surf the web, you're able to download applications that will help you make your life easier and more connected. So the same scenarios, think of the benefits that you might have for the customers. And when you finish your pitch during the launch, make sure that it's not just a announcement. Make sure prior to the end of the session, there is a call to action. So ano mga call to actions that you want to have, right? So you might want to have a way to sign up. You might want to have a try it and testing kit. In many software launches, if it's a physical event, you you might be able to give out a USB stick with your product that's secured, or you might then give them a QR code to go to the site so that you can download the product. Basta, at the end of the session, ang kailangan mong gawin, entice them to do something that's positive for you. Otherwise, all you did was just waste your laway, right? You don't want to do that because you're spending a lot of money on the launch, right? You want to make sure that that translates then to traction on interest in the product, either download or usage or registration, and potentially then move up to actually signing up and paying. Okay? So for me, these are just the small basic elements around how to look at uh, now launching your product with the core idea that dapat habang ilo-launch mo product, kilala mo kung sino yung customer mo. Kilala mo kung ano yung problema na kailangan mo lutasin. Because if you don't do that, again, you'll go through a very expensive launch scenario without having the ability for them to say, I want your product. So with that, I will end this session and then open it up for question. Okay, so thank you. I'll stop share. So hopefully everything that I mentioned is something useful that you understand, and then it will help you with all your startup energies and startup development process. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Sir Johnny. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hands.
There's a chat question from Marby. Rafael,
Go ahead, Sir Marv.
Hello po. I prefer reading the chat na lang muna po, sir.
Sige.
Mas clear po.
Give me a few seconds. Okay. So craft chocolates are costly. Tama siya. Yeah. So it seems we really need to target the higher income bracket of city people. Although honestly, I live in a farm and have little understanding of rich city people. I think this really sets us back in our marketing because we don't have cultural connections. Although we have an alternative strategy naman to produce. Okay. I'm not sure you need to drive your prices down. Tama ka naman, ang craft chocolates is a very niche product. I don't know if you are familiar with the Dubai chocolate. Yan ang trending ngayon, di ba?
Yes po, it's our product po.
So you use pistachio and chocolates and everything else. And to a large extent, I tried. I have some people who came from Dubai and they shared with us. Masarap, right? But they seem to have at least some level of marketing flair to actually showcase that it's something different para makita ng ibang merkado, right? So I understand where you're coming from, where you say you don't have an understanding of the marketplace. Pero maybe through connections with CDO Bytes, ito lang masasabi ko. I know USTP has a very strong partnership with Oro Chamber, right? So Oro Chamber is your Chamber of Commerce in Cagayan de Oro. I met a lot of people there when I was in CDO a few years back, helping CDO Bytes in some of the topics that we're sharing. Get them to bridge you, and then if you have products that you can sample, just have a session with them for maybe 1 hour for you to pitch and share, have them try, and then get their feedback. Hindi ka pa nagbebenta, i-test mo lang. And then get them to tell you what they feel. And then also ask them, if I were to sell this, what will you be looking for? How do I then reach the rest. In fact, what I will do is that you probably shouldn't sell it yourself because you don't have the capacity to reach the market. What you need to do is look for potential partners who will become your dealers. And then potentially nga, there might be a partner there in or a chamber that says, ako na lang distributor mo. Mayroon tayong agreement. You pass me the product at this particular price. I will sell this to the rest of the country, right? And then to a large extent, they will take care of all the marketing requirements to go after the products. My assumption is that they should be able to find connections to other chambers around the country, and then they will also try to pitch that as themselves. So that's for me a more efficient way of doing it rather than doing it yourself. But definitely do the initial conference with them to try and understand how they think and why they think it will be a good product for them to try and potentially sell. And then if not, then you can pivot a bit as, paano ko bang gagawin to para makuha ko naman yung kiliti ng merkado na to. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Van ulit. Okay, Gora. Oh yeah, okay, got this. Yeah. Ang challenge pa lang, Van, but I'm not going to stop you, is that you're now looking at a market outside of the Philippines. You're really looking at a regional play. So your biggest challenge now is how do you get your message to the rest of the world? So that means you need to find a way to position your website. I assume this is going to be a website, but you're also going to have a mobile app, right? Because your challenge with mobile app is that unless somebody downloads that, then you don't have a connection. So you need to look at both. And when we talk about travelers, they're not in the Philippines for them to see how to download that app, right? So look at how you position and see that in the search engine for travelers looking at how to come to the Philippines at a minimalist type of experience, but still get good experience. And then so that they will be able to um, download the mobile app. No? So I would really try to understand that marketplace. Right now you're making assumptions based on your experience as a backpacker. So maybe as you uh, go forward and doing customer discovery, go to the locations in the area now that are seeing overseas backpackers and then interview them. Interview why they're looking for these types of authentic experiences, and then also understand how they found the places. So that gives you two indications, right? What motivates them to look for a place like this, and how do they go after that particular entity or travel? That then allows you then to position your go-to-market strategy as well as the value proposition that you provide the particular backpacker. I hope that answers the question, Cora. Sorry, Ben.
Yes po. Konti lang plug-in. I look at Gura as streamlining mobile application. Kasi po, during my travel journey sa Southeast Asia, I started to talk to backpackers and other travelers in Malaysia, in Singapore and Thailand, and how if they what's their plan if they have planned to go to the Philippines. And they said like we will go to the Philippines if we will know how to, if there is a platform or some, we will know how to go to the Philippines because Philippines is a fragmented islands and there's no ano daw, wala daw silang masyadong platform nakikita how to travel. And then that's how I coined Gora as a stream to streamline them because they don't know exactly how to go around Philippines. And I think that the value of giving them the platform will will give traffic to our tourism. And I hope so that I can be a contributor of our Philippine tourism industry po.
I agree naman. I think a platform is missing. Ang challenge mo lang is how to go to market. So your seeding of the search engines and possibly also how to position yourself in the travel industry so people will know that there is Agora and will download. That I think is your biggest challenge. Not the fact that the platform can provide information. Pero sayang, if you have a platform that has all of that, but nobody comes and see you, diba? You're not like Field of Dreams. When if I build it, it will come. So you really have to go after the market afterwards, after you build it. Okay. I will na lang go to James.
Hello po. So sorry. This is regarding the pricing din po.
Opo.
What I just wanna hear your thoughts on price anchoring, which is like having tiered pricing, tapos the middle pricing is closer to the price, the most expensive one, to try to push them to the price. I mean, to the most premium one. What is your opinion lang po on that practice?
Well, I guess it depends on what your product is, and whether there is a differentiation in the tiers. Typically, tiers are more volume-based, rather than product feature-based. But you can also, so it's the same scenario when you look at a freemium scenario. So your lowest tier is free, then you start going up the ladder depending on the number of features you have. No? I don't see any problems with that type of strategy, but I would suggest as you start, don't make it complicated. The more complicated your pricing strategy is, it becomes confusing to potential customers. So if you want a tier, don't make it too many tiers. And then you can potentially, yung pinakamataas na tier where you get the high value product, it's like a strategy around bundling also. So as you create that high value product, put in as many features and value adds that you can para yung perception ng customer, sige, kung konti na lang ang babayaran ko to go to the top tier para makuha ko lahat, imbes na mag-invest ako sa middle tier, diretso na ako sa top tier. So now you need to design that. You need to design your product features, and then ano yung tiers mo. So assume, let's say, 3 tiers, right? Uh, Premium, free, standard, premium, advanced. So if you want people to go higher than standard, you really then have to design ano ba talagang value ng advance, right? And uh, I don't know what your product is. Potentially, then that could mean uh, more searches, more storage, more connections, a concierge service versus a free where you have nothing except for just a description of locations or something like that. So, and I hope I'm correct in terms of interpreting that your traveler product is similar to what Van has with Gora, also in the travel business. No? But if it's not, then we can talk about it separately para maano. But yes, definitely from a tiering perspective, there's a way to do it. Just don't make it too complicated. Yes, Arnold.
Okay po. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Sir Johnny. First and foremost, yung product ko po is more on services. It's more on sa trucks, 10-wheeler. So, nag-ano po siya, bali, ang focus po namin is more on sa mga backload owners.
Okay.
Okay. So, my question, before I'm going to throw the question po, kayo po pala yung isa sa napili ng trucks to be one of our mentor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you po. So, okay, so ang question ko po is, and I know this will apply also to some other innovators here. Kasi we all know that, let's say for example, magla-launch na ng yung kanilang product and services, we will not going to avoid yung mga resistance to change at saka yung trust. So I know I can search that one in AI, but it's better to get a insight or an advice from an expert like you po, since kasi you've been in this field for so many years. So it's very good for me to, hear your side and advice on how to deal with those kind of yung resistance to change and yung trust. Paano namin makukuha yung trust na para ma-download nila yung apps and yung resistance sa change, kasi we all know na eto na yung kalakaran nila. Yung iba, yung transformation po ba, yung transformational change. Yun po. Thank you so much.
That will always be one of the drawbacks or tawag niyan, the potential hindrances anywhere you go. Primarily because talagang ganun yan ang psychology ng tao. Pag sanay na sila, mahirapan i-convince na palitan yung change nila. And I will tell you the story of GCash. GCash has been around for almost a couple of decades, right? Uh, but it didn't fly until nung pandemic because suddenly you cannot go out, you cannot buy things without using an e-wallet. Suddenly, GCash now is a unicorn. Uh, so, I don't want to say na kailangan nyo maghintay ng 20 taon. No? Pero I think the key here is creating the opportunity from a track record perspective. Right? So kung bagito ka at hindi kilala sa merkado, talagang mahirap. Pero may assumptions naman, if you are in that particular field, may kilala kayong mga kaibigan na potentially pwedeng gumamit ng serbisyo nyo. Right? So, yun, gumawa ka ng pilot program. Many of the big companies that have flown in the US and have become unicorns, similar to Uber, similar to Airbnb, never became big on day one. They always start small. In fact, what's important is as you start small, you learn. And if you find that your start is having difficulty, find a way to change that. Madalas natin sinasabi in the internet startup world, learn to fail fast and then pivot fast. Right? So make it look like a series of experiments. So unahin mo muna yung mga kaibigan nyo. And then use whatever service you're trying to position to get them to use it. Habang ginagamit nila, bibigay sila ng feedback. Pwede naman mag-charge ng konti kasi syempre may cost ka rin, di ba? Pero huwag mo naman gawin yung pricing mo, yung malaki na. I don't know what the potential pricing model will look like later on because you're gonna have a lot of competition in that particular space as well. Pero once you get that going, make sure that you work with those first customers to allow you to publish their positive comments. So that becomes testimonials, right? And then slowly increase penetration in the marketplace. And I will go back again if you're, since in USTP is very close to Auto Chamber, many of the companies within the chamber will probably have needs for your tracking services. So when you're ready, and you can probably do a mini launch with Auto Chamber members, and then hopefully get traction saying, okay, ano yung servisyo mo, anong benepisyo ko, ano yung presyo ko. Then you can probably get that going so that then you can get positive feedback around that, and that becomes your first level of success in your minimum viable product. When you're ready with that, now you start going cross-region as far as the service is concerned, so that you can have it multiple provinces or pan Mindanao, and then later I don't know if the same service can go to the Visayas and Luzon, right? Or you might have to look at partnerships as you try to look at inter-regional play, potentially to work with ferry companies that might have Roro services, or potentially work with a to-go company that says, I can hand off my products from my trucks to you, to hand off to another partner in a Visayas area, to hand off to another partner in ano, or potentially to hand off to an airplane that will then travel to the rest of the destination. Yung mga ganun scenario, now you
Yes.
create a network of potential travel services for hauling of these goods. But start small. We've always thought that you start off with an MVP, a minimum viable product, test it out, dream big, but start small. And then as you work on the traction, then you can scale.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much po, Sir Johnny.
You're
Very
welcome.
insightful po.
So any other questions? All right. I think I'm over time now. Sorry, Hannah,
It's
are you in
okay, Sir
charge now?
Johnny. So I
Okay.
think
So thank
more
you.
questions from our startups. So thank you so much for that insightful learning session, Sir Johnny. I believe our startups gained a lot of new knowledge today that they can use in their future endeavors. So before we have a photo op, allow us to formally express our gratitude. We would like to present the certificate of appreciation to Mr. Johnny C. for imparting his valued insights and expertise as a resource speaker during the Firestarter learning session for product pricing, launching, and marketing under CDO Bytes Firestarter incubation program held virtually via Zoom on January 30, 2026 from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 noon. Given this 30th day of January 2026 at USTP Cagayan de Oro City, signed by the following: French Maverick Lorilla, our TBI Manager of CDO Bytes; Engineer Alex Moriel, the Vice Chancellor of Research, Innovation, and Extension; and the USTP CDO Chancellor, Attorney Junel O. Albina. A virtual round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. So kindly turn on your cameras for our photo op for this afternoon. Mama Lane will capture this moment. So let's wait for the other teams to turn on their cameras. Sir James, Mama Yara, and Sir Rio. Okay, I guess you can start now, Mama Lane. So smile, everybody. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Again, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. And for our announcement and reminder, April 17 will be the demo day, and our next session, learning session 5, will be on next Friday. So maka-rest pa mo this Wednesday to do your other task. And that's it for this afternoon. You can have your lunch now and enjoy the rest of the
Okay.
day. Thank you so much, Sir Johnny.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Sir Johnny.
Enjoy your
Thank you,
lunch.
Sir Johnny. Thank
Happy
you.
weekend.
Care.
Thank you.
Mm-mm.